I'd like to call this first meeting of June 2023 of the Daviess County Fiscal Court to order. And Commissioner Conder, would you lead us in the prayer?
Shall indeed. Thank you, Judge. If everyone could bow their head as I pray for us and our community. Dear Lord, as we celebrated Memorial Day, we remember those who gave their lives for us to enjoy the freedoms that our nation affords us. For all of us, regardless of how we're born, regardless of how we look, regardless of what's happened to us in life, those freedoms are extended to all of your people. I ask you now to bless this court as we do the work of our people, of your people, and make sure that we do the right thing for the right reason all the days. I ask this in your name. Bless us all. Amen.
Amen.
Now the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Commissioner Conder. Jenny.
Yes, sir. Item 1, consideration for approval, A, minutes of the May 18th, 2023 Daviess County Fiscal Court meeting.
Motion to approve.
I'll second it.
Got a motion and a second. All of you have had the opportunity to review the minutes. Do you have any changes or corrections or deletions? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
B, all claims for all departments.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. You've had the copy of the bills due and payable. Do any of you have any questions of our treasurer?
No.
No.
Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
C, budget transfers for fiscal year ending June 30, 2023.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Mr. Johnson.
Yes, Judge. Under our fund accounting rules and regulations, we are prohibited from ending the fiscal year having any account line where the actual expense is greater than the budgeted expense. We do not inflate budget estimates to guard against this. Instead, we budget reasonably, and we adjust the budget during the June meetings of any fiscal year with such budget transfers. This is the first round of transfers, all of which are either offset by revenue, another expense reduction, or an approved result of normal operations, or a special item or project approved by the court. As a note, budget transfers do not increase the budget. We are simply moving money around within the existing budget. I request your approval to make the following budget transfers: $1,876,650 in the general fund, $296,500 in the road fund, $229,000 in the jail fund, $344,000 in the solid waste construction fund, and $1,317,500 in the solid waste operating fund. I will answer any questions you may have.
Any questions for Mr. Johnson?
No.
Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
D, order of allowance to the Board of Assessment Appeals.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion second. This is Mr. Smith.
The state law requires that we have a board of assessment appeals. Mike's not on. It says it is. Okay, try another one then. So Judge, the state law, in fact, KRS 133.020 requires that we have a Board of Assessment Appeals for people, and 133.030 requires that we pay them $100 per day. And so this is to fulfill state law.
Any questions for Mr. Smith?
No.
Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
E, contract with Daviess County Public Schools for the transportation of non-public school students.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Mr. Johnson.
County Public School System invoices Daviess County Fiscal Court to provide bus transport for non-public school students in the county per KRS 158.115, which the state will reimburse once all costs have been reconciled and billed accordingly. This contract is for the school system to provide the transport services and invoice fiscal court throughout fiscal year 23-24. We will apply for reimbursement in the fourth quarter of 23-24 as is routine. The court has participated in this program for over 20 years. The contract is standard. I see no issues, and I would recommend approval.
Any questions for Mr. Johnson?
No.
Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
F, contract with Axiom Architecture for Clerk's Office Election Area Renovation Design Services.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Mr. Johnson?
Included in the fiscal year 23-24 budget is the renovation to the election area of the clerk's office as requested by Clerk McCarty. The renovation is to improve public service and security for elections, as well as better allocate space for the finance and administration offices. This is the contract for Axiom Architecture to produce the drawings and specifications for us to bid the project. We only require service items 1 through 6 in the amount of $13,900. This proposal is being considered for approval now in order to preserve the intended timeline of the project so that it is completed prior to this year's general election and well ahead of next year's presidential election. We will not incur the expense for the design services until fiscal year 23-24. Legal, Public Works Management, myself have reviewed it. It is in order, and I would recommend approval.
Any questions for Mr. Johnson?
No.
Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
G, waste tire grant agreement.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
We got a motion and a second. Mr. Smith?
Yes, this is an annual grant that we receive. It's a reimbursable grant for up to $4,000. We use this grant mainly to cover the disposal costs for waste tires that the road department and other cleanups find, say, alongside roads or open dumps. I will note that this is not the waste tire amnesty program. That's run by the state. It's done every 3 years. We are due to have that program take place next spring.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Smith?
No.
Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
H, award annual bid numbers 55-2023 through 59-2023.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Mr. Johnson?
Yes, Judge. Beginning with 22-2355, this is the annual service contract for janitorial services for the Morton J. Holbrook Judicial Center. We received 4 bids and are recommending award to the lowest and best evaluated bid submitted by Purist Clean for the presented schedule of rates for the contract period of July 1 of 23 to June 30th of 24. There is no increase to our current rates. We currently utilize Purist Clean with no issues. This is a budgeted expense and there were no exceptions to our bid specifications. As I note, this expense is reimbursed in full by the Administrative Office of the Courts. I would recommend approval.
We're not voting yet. Are there any questions on this item for Mr. Johnson?
No.
Next item, sir.
22-2356, this is the annual service contract for janitorial services for county administrative facilities, which include the Operations Center, landfill offices, transfer station offices, courthouse, Schertzinger facility, and the Robert M. Curley Judicial Annex. We received 2 bids and recommend award to the lowest and best evaluated bid submitted by Purist Clean for the presented schedule of rates for the contract period of July 1 of 23 to June 30th of 24. There is no increase to our current monthly rates, and annual glass cleaning only increased $100 per year. We currently utilize Purist Clean with no issues. This is a budgeted expense, and they had no exceptions to our bid specifications. As a note, the janitorial expenses for the Child Support Division housed in the Curley Annex is reimbursed by the Kentucky Cabinet for Health and Family Services. I would recommend approval.
Any questions on this item for Mr. Johnson?
Yep.
Next item, sir.
22-2357, this is the annual contract for the provision of crushed limestone, river gravel, coarse river sand, dense grade aggregate, and riprap for the Daviess County Road Department, West Daviess County Landfill. We received 2 bids and recommend award to the best evaluated bid submitted by Yeager Materials for the presented schedule of rates for the contract period of July 1 of 23 to June 30th of 24. Price increases over current rates were within the expected range. We currently utilize Yeager Materials with no issues. It is a budgeted expense, and there were no exceptions to our bid specifications. I would recommend approval.
Any questions on this item for Mr. Johnson?
No.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Judge. Jordan, I noticed in all of the annual bids listed that this item in particular shows a significant increase compared to everything else that we're about to approve. Is that normal?
Prior to COVID, the rates would increase every year somewhere between 7 and 15% across all materials. After COVID, this is the expected range, somewhere between 15 to 25%.
Thank you, Jordan. Thank you, Judge.
Yes, sir. Next item.
222358, this is the annual contract for the provision of coated corrugated culvert pipe for the Daviess County Road Department. We received 3 bids and recommend award to the lowest and best evaluated bid submitted by Contech Engineered Solutions for the presented rate schedule for the contract period of July 1 of 23 to June 30th of 24. Price decreases compared to current rates for all measurements ranged from 30 to 50%, explained mostly by the market rates of aluminum and steel. Polymer coating will be 1.3 times scheduled rates, and bituminous coating will be 1.4 times scheduled rates, both of which are within the expected range. This is a budget expense. There were no exceptions to our bid specifications, and I would recommend approval.
Any questions for Mr. Johnson?
No.
222359, this is the annual contract for the provision of ready-mix concrete, fibrous concrete reinforcement, and excavatable flowable fill for the Daviess County Road Department. We received 2 bids and recommend award to the lowest and best evaluated bid submitted by Yeager Materials for the presented schedule of rates for the contract period of July 1 of 23 to June 30th of 24. We have used Yeager Materials in the past with no issues when material was available. This is a budgeted expense, and their exceptions to our bid specifications were ruled as minor. I would recommend approval.
Any questions for Mr. Johnson? No. Hearing none, all those in favor of all these bids signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I hired Dennis Fisher as part-time landfill scale operator effective June 3, 2023.
Motion to approve.
I'll second it.
Got a motion and a second. Want to you want to speak to this or no?
This is a retired employee who's willing to come back to work. He will be available to work some weekends. It would be primarily into to just cover some extraneous situations. But I think the biggest plus would be his ability to work weekends. Right now, our current staff works every other weekend, and so his ability to work weekends will actually lower our overtime expense.
Very good. Thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
J, hired Jake Westerman as transfer station laborer effective 6/19/2023.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second?
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
K, hired James Thompson as transfer station laborer effective 6/15/2023.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
P, hire Patrick Souders as landfill laborer effective upon successful completion of pre-employment screenings.
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
We got a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Next item, Jenny.
M, reappoint Jordan Johnson as Daviess County Treasurer effective 6/30/2023.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second it. Oh, they were going to play that game with you, Jordan.
Oh, yeah, but I was like, okay, no second here, see what happens with our county treasurer over there.
Jordan, I want to thank you for stepping in when we came on board. January 1, I think, was your effective date. And I want to thank you for serving us well and agreeing to stay with us the rest of our term. So, any other comments?
No.
Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
N, appoint Bill Weichel to the RWRA Board effective 7/1/2023.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. I understand Ms. Weichel's here. I want to thank you, sir, for agreeing to serve our community in this capacity. Appreciate your willingness. And Commissioner Conder, thank you for giving me his name. So, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
O, second reading of KOC A.104, 2023, fiscal year 2023-24 annual budget.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Mr. Johnson.
Yes, Judge, we submitted the budget to the state after the first reading held on May 4th and received approval as to form and classification from the state local finance officer on May 10th. To reiterate, for fiscal year 23-24, the budget assumes a COLA of 6.5%. The retirement contribution rates published by the Kentucky Public Pensions Authority for fiscal year 23-24, that the currently adopted taxes and tax rates will be held constant with no new taxes levied, and that no additional debt will be issued. I will read the appropriations by fund, and I will also note that there is an offsetting revenue in the same amount per fund as the budget is balanced. General fund is $48,006,163. Road fund is $6,972,750. Detention center fund is $11,760,937. The LGA fund is $135,500. The bond service fund is $3,386,200. Solid waste funds total $24,826,925. The economic development fund is $1,688,000. The American Rescue Plan Act fund is $10,250,000. And the county clerk permanent storage fees fund is $381,000 for a total budget appropriations for all funds equaling $107,407,475. It should be noted the budget is unchanged since the first reading. Upon passage and publication, the budget will be effective beginning July 1 of 24. It will be posted on our website tomorrow and be available for examination in the office of the County Judge Executive. This is the second reading.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Before we proceed, I would like to ask each of you to think about what we are and what we are not doing tonight. We are about to vote on a $107 million budget. We are not about to vote on a single issue. We are required by state law to have an approved budget by July 1, or we cannot operate. The budget cannot be changed overnight. We must have 2 readings, and as Mr. Johnson just said, publicly we must advertise the second reading, receive approval from the Department of Local Government as to form and classification, and all of that takes a minimum of 3 weeks. To make certain that we do have an approved budget by July 1, we have all worked together to reach an acceptable document. None of us got everything we wanted. We all gave up something, but we all got something. As I said at the first reading, on any particular issue, everyone up here does not agree with each other, just as each of our citizens that we represent do not agree with one another. There are court members up here that do agree with you, and there are court members up here that do not agree with you. I understand that some people will dislike certain aspects of this budget. Well, each of us dislikes certain aspects also. Finally, I want to emphasize that there is no end tonight. We are voting on a budget, which is merely a financial plan that we use to operate. We are not deciding a social issue. Whatever issue you represent is not going away tonight. The discussions around the social issues will continue. At this point, we would have, if the commissioners wish to make any statements, if not, Commissioner Conder.
Thank you, Judge. Just for a matter of fact or just an applaud, I believe, if I'm not correct, that the budget in prior years was submitted to the Department of Local Government with stacks of papers. And this year, our county treasurer did what? What did you do, Mr. Johnson?
I submitted it electronically.
And how fast did you get that budget back?
In about 6 days.
And was it a good budget? Perfect.
As to form and
I think you said the word perfect to me is what you said. So just to make sure that everyone understands that our new county treasurer is not killing a whole lot of trees here. He actually did this for the first time electronically. Kudos to you, Mr. Johnson. Thank you, Judge. That's all I have.
At this point, if anyone wishes to make a statement on the budget, you're welcome to. See no takers. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
2, consideration for discussion, A, other business to be brought before the Daviess County Fiscal Court. I'm not aware of any.
Okay.
B, public comments.
Public comments. At this point, we welcome anyone who's here that wishes to come to the podium to speak to any issue that is not on the agenda. You're welcome to come. You have to please state your name and address for the record. Yes, sir. Hold, he's going to
gotta turn your
come.
mic
He's
on.
going to come and turn on your mic.
Yes.
Is it live now, Jordan?
Yes. We're good.
Sounds like
Yes,
I
sir.
hear it.
Say Timothy Smith, you said?
Yes,
Okay.
I'm a resident of Owensboro, and this is really something more, I would say, and this is extemporaneous, but this was reported on Channel 25. Scholaroo has identified the happiest states in the U.S., and Kentucky ranks 47th. So considering some aspects of the budget you're considering, consider the possibility of some of the younger generation that might take their talents to be nurtured elsewhere, only to return possibly to take care of aging parents. And what kind of message does this send to the younger generations who are particularly certain subcomponents of the group are more susceptible to suicidal ideations? I am a current volunteer with the Tri-State Alliance Youth Group, and the director or the person in charge of that passed away. There are two other people trying to take over the organization. Now, this is for middle and high school students, LGBTQ plus students. So just consider certain aspects of what you mentioned earlier in general. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is Emil. I work with an organization called The Collective, and I just wanted to ask for clarification if the fiscal budget for this quarter defunds the River Park Center.
This is our budget for the coming fiscal year,
Okay, yeah.
from July 1 to June 30th. And we keep in mind, the River Park Center has much funding that comes from other sources. All they got from us previously was $12,500. And to answer your question specifically, the answer is no. The $12,500 is not in the budget.
It's not in the budget.
Correct.
I'm just worried about how many of the members of the LGBT community are going to feel more marginalized by their local government with this ruling. Now, I know you said this isn't going into effect right now,
July 1.
and there's no chance it will change.
No, our budget's set. We just voted on it just a moment ago.
I was just asking for clarification. That's all I have. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
My name is Lydia Wethington, and from what I understand, defunding was because of the drag shows that you all, apparently some of you objected to. But my question is more practical. I want to start coming to these meetings so that I know what you all are doing in advance. So when do you hold them? Is it publicly announced?
Yes, ma'am.
Is it on a regular basis?
It is, both.
Okay. When
Both
is
are
your
yeses.
next meeting?
Jenny, you want to tell her when the next meeting is scheduled?
Our next meeting is set for June 1st. The second meeting, the second meeting in June is the 22nd.
Okay.
And we will have another meeting midday on June the 30th.
Okay. Well,
Those
I
are
hope
the
I'm not
next
the,
two.
I'm sorry?
Those are the next two, and generally, our meetings are held the first Thursday and the third Thursday of every month.
Okay.
There
I just
are-
want to know what you're doing, because I've wanted for a long time to come to these meetings and wasn't sure when they were. This budget has me fairly upset, and I know I'm not the only one, so I would like to be able to give a little input. My views, you may ignore it, I guess, but I still want to be able to say what I think and to let you all know maybe what some of the population of Owensboro thinks too. We are voters. You know, when we're a small group of people who, there's many of us that feel the same way, but not that many of us came today.
Yes, ma'am.
And that's all I have to say.
Yes, ma'am.
My name is Andrew Gillum. I don't really have a question for you, but as a concerned youthful member of our community, born here, lived here my whole life, most of my generation doesn't feel very efficiently represented by you guys. And I understand that there is not intensity to the budget shift, but what it does is continue a trend that people like me are seeing across the country. And it shows a willingness to kick down a community you are not a member of, you are not involved with, and is simply shameful.
Hello, my name is Madeline Howell. I live at 424 Locust Court in Owensboro, Kentucky, 42301, and I'm a taxpayer and a voter. And I really enjoy River Park Center. I enjoy the activities that they have, and I have been very glad that they have been inclusive of everyone. Including actually the LGBTQ community, which I hate to tell y'all, until all this started, I didn't even know they had drag shows down there. And I don't think they've really hurt anybody. From what I've heard, I've never been to one. I think I'll try and go to one to see what all the hullabaloo is about. But I've heard that they're a lot of fun, and I'm sorry that such a small amount of money could not be allocated to them to continue to serve our community and all the people in our community with all the different activities that they have. Including young people and including people that don't necessarily aren't necessarily straight like me and old in my 60s, but, you know, like we say, with liberty and justice for all.
Ma'am, there's another gentleman coming up. He'd already stood up before you got up. Okay.
My name is Kathy Wethington, and I would just like to say Ted Nugent came here either last year or the year before. Ted Nugent is nothing but a bag of obscenity, and nobody cut the budget for the River Park Center over that. I think this is shameful. I really do. I think it's shameful. Nobody is forced to go to a drag show. Nobody's forced to go anywhere that they have to see something that they don't want to. Adult people should be allowed to choose for themselves what they go see, and some small group of bigots shouldn't be interfering with that.
Hi, my name is Brian Blair. I live at 5260 Hillview Drive.
If you don't mind saying your name again.
Brian Blair.
Thank you.
First off, I'm a Christian. I'm a follower of Christ, and I try to have a biblical worldview for everything that I look at. So I consider you folks, according to Romans 13, a blessing. Civil government is a blessing from God. But in Romans 13, God also defines civil government's role, and that is to reward righteousness so that it flourishes and punish evil. And I was reminded with Commissioner Marksberry's prayer, April, from Isaiah 5, woe to those who call good evil, evil good, down, up, sour, sweet, and along those lines. So I am glad you made the decision you did for whatever reason. Promotion and endorsement of public sexual perversion is an affront to the living God. And people who make those decisions are accountable, not just us as voters, but you're accountable to the living God. The idea of an age-appropriate drag show is a red herring and a canard. The idea that adult behavior does not flow downstream and affect our youth is laughable. It is an indefensible position. And the rot and the degeneracy we see across this nation on a regular basis is downstream from decisions that go the opposite way that yours did, capitulations to the mob. Winston Churchill said that appeasers appease the alligators because they think they'll eat him last. Sometime, sooner or later, the alligator shows up. Daviess County is the better for this decision, and I look forward to more.
Anyone else? Sir, you've already had your turn. We only do one. And this lady, unless you are speaking, I'll allow it because I didn't stop the first gentleman that spoke. But unless you are speaking to something that is not on the agenda and the budget was on the agenda, you'll be the last one allowed to speak. But go ahead.
My name's Caroline Davidson, and I live at 3119 Brent Gray Trace, and I've been here a year, and I tell everybody how much I love Owensboro. So I just moved here from out of state. And I personally was shocked when I heard this was happening. I just didn't think that something like this would happen in Owensboro. I see Owensboro as a very progressive, just a great place to live. And when I think what happened, I think, what happened to the separation of church and state? It is not the state's business to do what the church does. You know, great. God might say one thing, but that's not your job. So in the future, I hope that you base your decisions on freedom and on the Constitution and people's rights. And adults have rights. And yes, we set what values our society says. But if we start marching down that road where, you know, you can't do that, well, then you can't do that, and you can't do that. And then one day, nobody can do anything. And I don't want to go on that slippery slope to fascism. And that's kind of where I see us moving. So please remember, separation of church and state.
And I will reiterate, is there anyone that wishes to speak to any item that was not on the agenda? Did you come to say anything, sir? Or I want to make you feel welcome. This is for the commissioners up here. This is Mr. John Kovich, is it? Kovich. And he's with KCO, who's our county, Kentucky Association of Counties, and he just stopped in to visit and to participate in one of our meetings, or at least take it in. So thank you for being here. Jenny, next item.
C, comments by Daviess Fiscal Court.
Let's see. Commissioner Marksberry.
Since this is a new court with a first budget to pass, we all had to give and take on some items. And as the judge said previously, no one got everything they wanted. But in the spirit of cooperation, we did move forward. Thank you.
Commissioner Caslen.
Yes, Judge, thank you. So I just want to say as well, sorry I didn't mention it during the budget part, but I appreciate everybody that contacted me and the other commissioners with their opinions and their perspectives of what they wanted for our community, regardless of which side somebody had spoke of and reached out to me and the others. I appreciate people actually taking an active role in your community and standing up for what you think is right.
Commissioner Conder.
Thank you, Judge. Just to bring to light, this past weekend with Memorial Day, I believe the count was, 12 events?
I believe so.
That occurred this past weekend, and many of them well-attended, but some not necessarily, but that's good. It was a good day, or good days of those events. A couple of other things of note. At Yellow Creek Park this weekend, there will be a Civil War encampment on Saturday from 12 to 4. If you want to bring your kids out and just really see what some of the uniforms and everything else look like, it would be a great event, and then maybe go fish. The other piece was at Horse Fork. Finally, the parking lot was paved. And I know that several families were just excited as all get out to finally see that that was done. So, Mr. Brasher, well done on both aspects. Finally, if you notice around the courthouse today, and I think they were placed earlier this week, you see the Walk of Honor, which is to recognize all those individuals who gave all And please, I ask you to read the tags. Who are they for? My son is on there as a first responder, as a firefighter, but I also had two others that were recognizing all of our first responders. So it's a great thing to do, to walk around and see those little tags of who is being remembered and for what they were being done. So please do so. That's all I have, Judge.
Judge, can I interrupt? I forgot to mention that June 14th is Flag Day. We have a drop box here. If you have torn or tattered flags, bring it here to the courthouse on the 3rd Street side of the building. It's a drop box for anybody who has one to bring up, and then we'll dispose of it properly.
Right, thank you. And that event's, I think it's June 14th?
Yes, June 14th, Panther Creek South at 4 o'clock. VSOs, the veterans organizations in Daviess County, do that.
And I've attended quite a few over the years, and they do a very good job with that, to properly dispose of flags. Anything else, Commissioner? And I just have a couple of things. Number one, I want to just say a public thank you to the River City Pickleball Club, who has generously pledged $2,000 towards the lighting of the pickleball courts out at Stanley. And that's been a frustration for those who enjoy that sport, that there's no part of the year, at least, there's no lit pickleball courts to use. So those will be we've applied for a grant for that, and I'm not sure what the timetable is to hear back on that, but we'll decide what to do when we hear back from it, whether or not we've got that grant. Also, I've got a note here, June 8th, 5 p.m., I think at our last fiscal court meeting, we appointed members, 3 people, to serve on the reapportionment committee for states and federal level positions. They do what they call redistricting. State law calls our redistricting, they refer to it as reapportionment. And so that will be done this year because it was because of COVID, the census was late getting released to us, and so we were told to hold off until the new census numbers come out. So that meeting is June 8th, 5 p.m. here in this room. That's all I have, Jenny. No, we have the next item.
Wrong agenda. 3, consideration for approval. A, enter into closed session per KRS 61.810(1)F and KRS 61.810(1)B. KRS 61.810(1)F, discussions or hearings which might lead to the appointment, discipline, or dismissal of an individual employee, member, or student without restricting that employee's members, or students' right to public hearing if requested. This exemption shall not be interpreted to permit discussion of general personnel matters in secret. Action is expected to be taken on this KRS. KRS 61.810(1)B, deliberations on the future acquisition or sale of real property by a public agency, but only when publicity would be likely to affect the value of a specific piece of property to be acquired for public use or sold by a public agency. No action is expected to be taken on this KRS.
Do I have a motion? I'll make a motion we go into closed session.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. So at this point, we will we'll go into closed session. You're welcome to sit here if you want. Don't know how long we'll be in closed session, and when we come out, we do expect to take final action.